What is trauma? Is it real? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, and how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about trauma. I've worked with a lot of people who are experiencing trauma, and it's something that I know a lot about. In this video, we're going to be talking about what trauma is and if it's real, because people have different opinions about that, and then also what we can do if we have experienced trauma or we're trying to help somebody else who has experienced trauma too. The word trauma means a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. When I was 9 years old, I had an accident and I broke my back in 5 places and I broke my head. And I was paralyzed from the neck down temporarily. A lot of times when people see me speak in front of large crowds, they'll say, "Why do you wear such weird shoes?" Because I have these shoes with big springs on them. I have dress shoes with springs on them, boots with springs on them, tennis shoes, sneakers with springs on them. I'm always wearing shoes with springs on them, and it's because my back experienced trauma when I was 9 years old, and it can't forget it, right? So these shoes, though, help me not have back pain. Because of the trauma that my back experienced, I have had a lifetime of dealing with back pain and trying not to overdo it with my back and trying to strengthen muscles and stuff like that. But the shoes seem to make a really good difference, so that when I wear the shoes, I actually do not feel the back pain. There's like a cushion or something that happens with these springy shoes that make it so that my back does not experience any effects or any trauma. So our bodies can experience trauma. Sometimes we might get a toothache, like a tooth on the bottom of our mouth that is experiencing some decay, and we start getting sensations on the top part of our mouth because of the bottom tooth is having a problem. It will send residual pains to different places in the body. Those are all physical traumas. So when people speak of trauma, they usually speak of psychological or emotional trauma. Is trauma real? Yes. Trauma is real. We can experience trauma in our bodies in multiple different ways. We can have traumatic experiences relationally or interrelationally and in our relationships so that we are not sure how to proceed with future relationships. That would be a sign of trauma. So why is it that some people think that trauma is not real? Well, that could be because trauma is being used as an excuse for a lot of things right now. Is trauma real? Yes. I've worked with many young people and families and adults who have experienced trauma. For years, I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens who had a myriad of different experiences in their lives. Not only were they usually neurodiverse, but they usually came from traumatic backgrounds where they had been abused or given drugs and raped and things. And those are traumatic things that can happen. I've seen children who've had sexual pasts end up exposed to something sexual and suddenly start reliving a trauma and start remembering something. So is it real? Absolutely. Do we need to understand it? Yes. I'm going to talk about what we can do to help people in situations of trauma. But I will say that trauma is being used as an excuse for a lot of things. In fact, some people are claiming all kinds of things are trauma for them, when in reality, they're normal life experiences that people should just have to work past, such as being different. Sometimes a person has a trauma, like maybe they're born with a cleft palate or a cleft lip or something, okay? this is something that as a small child, they actually don't know is traumatic because they don't know how to compare it to anybody else, when they're a baby. And they have some surgeries. Those are hard. They're in the hospital. Might actually create a little bit of psychological trauma for the person or something like that over time. They may start recognizing, oh, I look different than other people. I have a scar here or something like that. And they have to deal with that. But do you know, a wise parent, a wise person helps them push forward into the realm of normal living and moving in a positive, good direction with their feelings and pushing some of those things off and saying, you know what, I'm not going to allow that to control me. That's the thing with trauma, is there significant experiences that we could hyper focus on, ruminate on, and never let go, or we can learn how to manage them. Now, I have a friend who was born with cleft lip, cleft palate, and she did have a lot of surgeries and things, but she was a happy child and her family was good to her and they helped her move forward. But at school, she was bullied heavily for being different. And that did create a hardship for her. But I have to tell you something, this woman is the type of person that she serves everyone. She loves everyone. She works hard. There is just really nothing that can keep her down. And I look at that and think, from this past of traumatic experiences, being bullied for being different, having a major physical thing to go through and all these traumatic surgeries and everything, and just struggling to eat how many times, and to breathe and to learn to talk again and again, and all of those things that she had to experience. Yet all she does is bless the whole world with good everywhere she goes. She doesn't spend her time telling anyone about her birth defect and all of her stories. She won't tell anybody about it really unless you ask, or maybe the occasional circumstance it's brought up. But there are a lot of people who are being trained and groomed nowadays to think that if there is something different about them, that they should consider that as a source of trauma. And there are whole programs that are coming into schools that are called trauma-informed care practices. And these trauma-informed care practices are leading people to disempowerment instead of empowerment. As a person who worked with people who have experienced some significant trauma in their upbringing, in their home lives, I can tell you the solution is not to disempower and give excuses to somebody. Of course, to love, to understand, whatever the problem may be, but it's never going to help the person to coddle them and to help them find more and more case for their trauma. The best thing that you can do to help a person with trauma is to help them learn how to move on. In the Teaching Self-Government course, the TSG Parenting Course, I talk about 4 different skills that we teach children. They're called the 4 basic skills. These 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. All 4 of these 4 basic skills help a person be able to work through trauma. In fact, all of the youth that came to my home who were facing traumatic pasts and trying to move forward, I focused on those 4 basic skills first. Before anything else, it was bond and learn the 4 basic skills. In particular, the skill accepting no answers and criticism is super important. Sometimes we wish we were different. We wish we were taller. We wish we had a different color hair. We might wish that we lived in a different place or that we had a different story for our life. But it isn't that way. So that's a no answer. So how do you accept a no answer? You look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body, and then you say, okay, that's how it is. I can accept that. Or you disagree appropriately if the opportunity seems to present itself and it seems like it would be a good way to try to handle it. And then you drop the subject, which means you don't talk about it anymore. When a person learns skills like how to follow instructions from themselves, which is going to help them move on, how to accept no answers and criticism from other people and just the disappointments in life, and how to move on, and that it's okay to move on. That helps them face their trauma. And also learning how to accept consequences, because sometimes we even cause, difficult, specialized, traumatic, even sometimes experiences for ourselves. I broke my back because of something that I did, a decision that I made. Did I spend my life beating myself up? No. I accepted the consequence and I decided to move on. And if I ever had an experience where my back was having a problem, I would disagree appropriately. Do you see how those 4 basic skills are in everything? They truly are powerful. Now that's just a taste of what self-government learning can be like. The TSG Parenting Course at teachingselfgovernment.com is a great way to learn all of the principles and skills of self-government to help you or your loved ones be able to work through and feel empowered as they face traumatic experiences and move on. So go to teachingselfgovernment.com and go to the shop section and find that TSG Parenting Course today.